it's like as soon as they leave the borders of the Shire, you realize that the world is so much bigger. It's literally like the gate that they go through outside of where is it? Like near Brandy Hall. I forget the
Right.
name where they leave the Shire.
No, but that's exactly it.
Yeah,
Where Mary Brandybuck and where they all lived,
yeah.
the outskirts of the Shire, which is
Buckland.
even kind of seemed as Buckland. Yeah, the borders.
Mhm.
And that's another thing that I really loved in the movies, even if it, had the potential to come off a little cheesy. They don't ever, that I recall in the books, explain the feeling among the hobbits when they actually pass the borders of their land into a new land. But that moment in the movies when Sam stops dead in the corn stalks and is like, this is it. If I take one more step, I'll be the furthest from home I've ever been. It again just
Such a
speaks
great
to this
moment.
bubble. Oh my God. I mean, Sam, we're going to have to do a whole separate one on just characters and how they are so epic. But Samwise Gamgee is just incredible. 10 out of 10,
No, he
arguably
is.
one of the best characters.
No, I absolutely agreed. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's quite different in the movies than in the books. Not so much in his heart, but more so. There's more of a. I mean, you and I have spoken about this uh, in private, but there is more of a master-servant relationship in the books.
Yeah.
Though I don't. I mean, I think that that's like the proper term, but that's not. That's also not how. When I read it, that's not how I see it, so to speak. Um, but in the
I
movies, it
mean,
is more of just like a love. Like the love is there in the books, but it's more of a regular friendship, I suppose.
yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly it. It's more of a friendship that was built on that, on being friends, versus, the like Sam is identified as an employee of Frodo's and initially of Bilbo's through the old gaffer as the gardener. And yeah, it's mentioned Sam's the gardener. But you're right. I prefer how the movies did that and really focused on the friendship side of things. Also, though, as you get through the book, those lines become super blurred and it is less of Sam, tending to everything while the rest of the hobbits sit around. That's only really in the first couple of chapters, and then it kind of moves beyond that too. So it's kind of interesting because in the books, you see the friendship arguably develop a little bit more from what it was at first and to how this journey brought them only that much closer, which yes, it brings them closer in the movies too. But yeah, Sam is certainly different. I mean, and you said it earlier, but arguably all of the characters are a little more cold
Mhm.
in the books than they come across in the movies. And it could be a couple of things. Like again, the medium, it's when you're reading a book, a lot of it is up to interpretation, or it's really hard to get across moments that might be a moment of connection, like even just eye contact or, an embrace or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is definitely that coldness. And then that actually makes me think of Aragorn because, oh my God, he's so different in the books and the movie. Out of all of the Fellowship characters, I mean, we can talk
Yeah,
about
he is
Gimli
by
in a
far the
minute,
most
but
different.
he is very,
Yeah.
very different. And not just in how he acts and who he is, but his character arc is just totally like he's
Yeah.
ready to be king. There's just no conversation of like, I don't want it. He's not Jon Snowing this thing at all. Like he's like, I'm in, I'm ready. He gets
Yeah.
Anduril right away. Like
Yeah.
it's
I think when they meet him
crazy.
in Bree, I think he has the shards of Narsil. I
He
think that's the
does.
sword that he has. It's like because they know he's like a notched sword or like a half sword or something. Yeah, a big difference. And they serve their own, it serves its own purpose. I think that there are strengths and weaknesses to both of the arcs.
Yeah.
Um, I do have a preference, I think, but to a point towards the book is it makes his sacrifice or like the care he has for the hobbits and the company in general, I think it actually makes it more powerful because by accepting
Yeah.
the weight of like his birthright, so to speak, but to still like when they're deciding when they're going down the Anduin, and he's like, my heart says like go with Boromir to Gondor, but he's like, I can't leave Frodo. And like there's a right before the book ends, he's like, if I were to truly choose, it would be me, Legolas, and Gimli going with Frodo to Mordor. And so I think it makes it a little more impactful for like when he's helping the lower folk. I mean, we can get in the Two Towers, I think it actually becomes a little more clear when they're
Yeah.
hunting Merry and Pippin. But just in terms of fellowship, um, yeah, like I like the arc of the reluctant king in the movies. I think it's better served in the films. I think there's something that's very appealing about like a humble kind of coming to your sense of duty. But I don't know. Like, what do you think? Do you have a preference?
Well, I think you're right. The medium is what I'm just, my heart leans towards the movies because it was my first exposure to all of it. Like I didn't read
Yeah,
the books until after I'd watched the movies, which, could be a point of contention for some true fans of the
yeah, but I
book.
think most people at this
Um,
age, at least our age, like,
I mean, the movies came out when I was like 10 years old. So
yeah,
that
exactly.
was my first exposure. But there's something about the hero's journey that is just so captivating. And we all kind of expect a hero to not want it, like it's thrust upon you. And so when
Like shows
Aragorn,
the goodness of their heart, or like
yeah, like
whatever
you
that means.
only and there's a real quote here that I'm just gonna paraphrase, but it's basically knowing that you're a good leader or that someone's gonna be a good leader is by them not actually wanting the role and then
Mhm.
being thrust upon it.
Yeah.
Having it thrust upon them rather. So I really like that part in the movies. I didn't really consider though, what you just said is so interesting. And it's absolutely true. Aragorn could have just walked away from this whole thing and been like, screw it. I'm going to go be king of Gondor and
I
like,
know.
I'll get some armies to help you, whatever. But he makes that choice to say, even though I want to be in Gondor, I want to take Anduril and take the throne that is so rightly mine. I'm going to actually just commit to Frodo on this journey. Whereas in the movies, obviously, he's still committing his life. I mean, you do get
Mhm.
the sense that they all understand very likely you're not going to make it. You're not going to survive this journey. But it's less of him giving up his birthright, which he's acknowledging that he's willing to do if it means that he can help Frodo see this to the
Yeah,
end in the
it could almost
books.
even be seen as like a way out. Like if he were to die on his quest to destroy the ring, then it's just like he gets to undo Isildur's error while also not having to bear the burden of leadership or kingship. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I think that it's an important distinction.
And
I
what you're
think that
saying is,
how the
sorry, in the
books did it,
movies, like in the
yeah, yeah,
movies,
like in the
he's
movies,
almost,
exactly.
yeah. Okay.
And you get that wonderful scene because you don't get it in the books, but when Frodo decides to leave at the Falls of Forest at Amon Hen or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, he gets that final conversation with Aragorn, and Aragorn's like, "I would have followed you to the end or to the very farthest." It's beautiful, obviously, but you don't really get that in the books. It's just another one of those little like human moments. They're in the book for sure, and often the best moments, like you mentioned in Moria, in the films, the best like human emotional moments are lines taken directly from the text. But
Absolutely.
it's how they're inserted in it that makes really all the difference. But yeah, so for Aragorn, I don't know. I think both. It's a cop out answer, but I think both fit their medium. I think that it's
Yeah.
important to have it be this way in the books.
No, I agree. But I mean, Viggo Mortensen did such a good job in the
Yeah.
movies. It's crazy to think it wasn't going to be him initially. They actually had another actor pretty much lined up and like
Mm.
doing practice rounds and everything.
Yeah, the film scenes.
So
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, but
I
no,
don't even know who it
he
was.
plays it. I looked this up recently and we could even put it in the notes or something,
It's a
just a
no
link to
name.
who the guy
So.
used to be. I don't know that he's done much, but it's just interesting because when you take on a role too, you have to kind of make it your own a little bit. Like you don't want to just be the exact embodiment of that character in the book. And sometimes when you're a big fan of the books, that can be so crushing because you're like, no, Aragorn would have never said this or done that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think everyone in Fellowship really does a good job of making that role their own. And I wonder, I don't know, but I wonder if as they progressed filming, they even changed some lines, even if just slightly, to better accommodate the actor playing that role in the way that he saw it versus verbatim off the script.